Hey guys, it's Sign here with Hobbies of Man. Once again, and today we're going to be talking about the coming of Conan the Cimmerian Part 2, which will feature the God in the Bowl, the Tower of the Elephant, and the Scarlet Citadel. And here's a book, the physical book right here. So initially, I had divided this into 3 segments, where it was like the front matter plus the first 6 stories. But based on last week's video, or the video that I did right before this, that would have been way too long. It might have been like a 45-minute video or an hour-long video. So I didn't really feel like doing that, so I divided it into 2. So instead of doing 3 parts, we're gonna have 6 for this video, or for this book, and hopefully that works out pretty well. So let's jump right into it. The God in the Bowl starts with young Conan, who is a thief at this point in the media, in this kind of like museum-esque looking place. He is in there for some reason. I don't remember why. And he's seen by this night guard called Arus, A-R-U-S. And he calls some policemen from the street, I guess. And then there's this tense talk over the dead body of Killian, or Callian, who is the guy that owns this museum, right? And Conan didn't do it, and we know that he didn't because he found the body itself. But if Conan didn't do it, who did it? And so they have this like mystery developing between them, and then there's more men brought in, then we get this introduction to this idea of this sarcophagus, this bowl that has been closed. And actually it's more like a vase, or more of a pot, like a giant pot, but it's called a bowl for whatever reason. And it's explained, and it turns out that it has Thought Amon's mark. So he comes back to the series, and actually in the chronology of Conan, I think this happens before the first story, because Conan is young here, and he's in his 40s in the first story, right? So this might be the first time that Conan interacts with Thought Amon's stuff, and Thought Amon is a follower, a set, right? So there's snake motifs everywhere and stuff like that. So this beast is unleashed. Someone opened the bowl. They removed the covering from the sarcophagus and allowed this beast to come out. And it has this really interesting like whodunit horror vibe to it that I really enjoyed. The story was great. And Conan is then betrayed by the men that were questioning him, who at this point decided, yeah, Conan didn't do it, but we need someone, so we're going to keep him around. They decide to just try to kill him anyways. And so he attacks all of them. He manages to wound most of them and actually severely kill some of them. And then one of the men that, or 2 of the men that are not injured, decide to go out and see what's going on with the beast, to get away from Conan. And then they're attacked and they die. Conan is basically left alone, and he finds this godling, this thing that is too beautiful to really explain, that looks at him, that he thinks is a human. We don't know if it's male or female. It never is explicitly said. It just says that there's this beautiful face that Conan keeps looking at, and he's not sure what about it is, right? But somehow he realizes that there's danger, and so he decapitates it really quickly. The spell breaks, and he finds a human head with a snake body. And so this is like the opposite of a snake priest from like Tools of Doom, from Cole. And it was really good. I really enjoyed this. And this story specifically reminds me a lot of Uhtred from Fallen Kingdom. If you guys know what series that is, it's Bernard Cornwell's books, but I'm talking about the Netflix show. Something about a young Conan dealing with these like ridiculous like trappings of civilization, and not really understanding how to deal with him, and being honest and forthcoming, but still having to deal with the fact that no one believes him because they think that they're more civilized than him, and so they made up their mind and they think that they're right immediately, is really interesting. It reminds me a lot of Uthred's relationship with Alfred in the Fallen Kingdom series, and I really liked that. I thought that was cool. I just find myself finding so many parallels between these early Conan stories and so many things that I really like already. So to me, that is a very satisfying reading experience. It's really interesting to see, echoes of Conan across other things that I like. So it's really cool. I also didn't go into too much detail about this story because I think that a lot of the interesting stuff here is that kind of like mystery aspect, that kind of like what's going on, who are these characters, why are they here, and so that's why I didn't want to bother with names and stuff, and also makes it a little bit easier for me to talk about it, right? So yeah, then the Tower of the Elephant, which is probably the weirdest story so far. It's another one that's one of those like stories that get told on and on, or that people talk about a lot, and I understand why. This is a really interesting story, and to me, the best aspect of it is that it does kind of almost start going into fantasy or actual science fiction in some key moments. And I like that a lot. There's also a Cole story that I liked a lot because it did that same thing, where Cole goes into the depths, he crosses a barrier into another dimension, he finds these people that seem to be from the stars, and I thought that was really, really cool. And here we do get to have Conan interact with someone like that, so it's pretty interesting. So it starts at this place called Mal, which is a region of Stygia, I think is what the place is called, and it's a hive of scum and villainy, which is great. I like that. Where young Conan again talks to this Kothian guy, who we never get the name of. At least I don't know his name. I don't remember it being explained at all. But he tells Conan about the Tower of the Elephant and the elephant's heart, the thing that is the biggest treasure there, right? And Conan is young and interested in this stuff. He's like, I've heard so many people talk about this, but what is it? Where do I get it? What is the point of it? And can it be stolen? And, they say no, but then Conan's like, well, I could probably climb that kind of tower, so it might not be that difficult for me, right? But the Kothian is supposed to be this, like, great criminal, so he's like, nah, dude, you can't do that. And he says something to offend Conan, and Conan hasn't really become civilized yet, so he just kills this guy. He's like, okay, fuck you, dude. And we also get this really wonderful moment here, this kind of like key phrase that I think a lot of people know from Conan, which is the line about how civilized men are more likely to be impolite than barbarians because the trappings of civilization allow them to think that they'll be protected, right? That no one's going to act out against them, so they can do whatever they want. And I really like this line. I think some people interpret it incorrectly, but I definitely understand how that can happen, and I really like the line regardless. I think it's really, really good. It's very nice, and it's a great bit of philosophizing from Robert E. Howard that fits so well into the story because Conan is this like thoughtful guy, right? And so he does have this ability to think, and the story is showing us his thoughts in a very interesting way. So I really like this part of the story, this specific bit where it has that phrase, because it's really, really good. Then eventually Conan decides to go to the tower. He's like, okay, well, let's see what happens here. He climbs it, he finds the way in, and then he finds this guy called Taurus, who happens to also be a thief. He is the Prince of Thieves. And this reminds me a lot of the scenes where Conan meets his buddy, the Asian guy, in the Conan movie, where they're climbing the tower and they meet Valeria, and then they go into the Tulsa Doom's tower, right? So same vibe here. I really like it. I think it's good. I think Taurus is supposed to be Numidian. I think I'm not really sure, but they join forces. They kill these lions. Taurus has this special ability thanks to this powder from the specific lotus root or lotus flower. And it's really, really cool. They managed to kill most of the lions. One of them manages to survive, and Conan happens to feel its presence, feel its killer intent, and so manages to kill it right before it manages to maul them. And I really liked that. I thought that was a good moment there. It shows that Conan almost has this like supernatural ability to sense danger around him, which is cool. It doesn't really actually go into the supernatural. I think it is mostly just like, this guy is so used to violence that he can feel it before it happens, right? And so it's really, really cool. And then Taurus dies unexpectedly to some unknown danger that no one was aware of, which is this giant spider. And so Conan has to fight the spider, and there's a heated battle here between the two of them, and it was really, really good. I don't like spiders, so when Conan kills them, I'm like, yes, dude, let's fucking go. I fucking hate spiders. And then finally, Conan comes across this elephant man, this guy, kind of like Ganesha, I guess, vaguely. It's more like an elephant that turned its body into like a man's body. At least that's kind of how it's described. And we also have the most beautiful illustration in this book so far, which is where, you know, you see what this guy looks like. So maybe I can find it, because it was my favorite illustration. I loved it so much. It looks so good. And this guy is a Yog, or Y-A-G. And he has the body of a man and the head of a giant elephant. And it looks so good. I love this illustration a lot. And he and Conan talk. And Conan knows that this guy's not going to attack him, that there's no threat from this man. And so they talk, they converse. And it feels very sci-fi, because Yog, this guy, Yog, the Yog Koch, or whatever his name is, tells them, I come from the stars, from this place far away. I used to have wings, and we came on these great things of fire into this land, and my people started dying off, and I was the last one left. And then this guy that owns this tower managed to trap me and force me to tell him information, and it's so good. It's so interesting. And I guess these are like Cthulhu type monsters, or like, you know, aliens, but the way that he talks makes it feel more like Stargate aliens, almost like these really thoughtful, like higher level beings that just happen to also be able to interact physically with Conan. And I like it a lot. I think it's great. And eventually the Yog grows wary, and he's like, okay, well, finally, I have someone that can kill me that I can entrust with a final duty. And so he's like, I need you to do this thing for me, and I need you to say these words, and we will strike revenge against this man that kept me here, right? And so they have revenge against Yara, and Conan leaves and runs away as fast as he can, because he doesn't want to even really contemplate what the fuck he just went through. And it's a great story. I loved it. This is probably the best story so far. I would say it's this one, then The Frost Giant's Daughter, then God and the Bull, then the one that I'm going to talk about next, and then Phoenix and the Sword. Phoenix and the Sword is good, but it is not as good as all the other ones. So yeah, Tower of the Elephant is probably the best one for sure. And the final story here is The Scarlet Citadel, which was a very long story. It actually felt very long to me, and it's because I really didn't care too much about the first portion of the story. I like the second part quite a bit more, right? So yeah, let me see if I can read this out to you. I have it on a different piece of paper, because it couldn't fit in my notebook anymore. So it's King Conan's story. So he's back to being an adult. I think he's like 45-ish in this time period, and as young Conan, he's in like his 20s, and he rides out with a cavalry of 500 men, or sorry, 5,000 men, to the aid of his buddy, his ally Amalris, who joined with Strabonus to betray Conan. And so Conan is now fighting for his life with his men, and all his men are killed. And Conan tries to fight with the wizard in order to avenge his men and avenge his basically this betrayal, right? But it doesn't work. The wizard manages to paralyze him, and this wizard's name is Asotha, and he's captured. And they try to reason with Conan, like, hey man, you're not really a king. There's no reason why you should rule us or rule this place. We'll let you go as long as you give up your crown and you act like a savage, right? Like you besmirch your name, and right. And Conan's like, dude, I actually fought for my kingdom. You just inherited it. What the hell are you talking about? If anyone is not worthy, it's you guys. And he's too honorable, so he's like, I'm not gonna lie and let my name be thrown through the mud, raked through the mud, just to satisfy you, right? Just kill me and be done with it, right? And well, it doesn't work, but Isotha or Sotha wants to have Conan for some reason, so he tosses him in this weird catacomb area with Sotha, his giant snake, because of course there's snakes in this Robert E. Howard story, right? So yeah, he's bound when this seacoaster slave, I think he was black in the story, but I can't remember where he's from, and I don't know enough about the geographical versions of Conan's world to really pick a place. But he does mention that he knows of Conan because Conan was a pirate at some point, and he raised this guy's land. And this guy escaped and became a slave by accident. And now, thanks to this weird circumstance, he can take his revenge. But what happens is that the man is killed by Satha, the snake, and Conan finds a way to escape. The man dropped the keys right in front of Conan's feet. He uses his feet to pick it up, and he flicks his foot so that it lands on his hands, and then he manages to fumble with the keys in order to get his manacles released, right? And so he manages to escape, and so he walks around the catacombs. He tries to find out what the hell's going on, and he basically just ends up finding a bunch of cosmic horror type shit all over the place. There's this slime that is sentient. There's this frog thing. There's this weird tentacle monster thing as well. And there's this crazy plant, this devil's snare type plant, like from Harry Potter, who is like a mind flayer, and it's constantly sucking on this man, this decrepit old ancient man. And Conan decides to kill the plant by digging around its roots and cutting its roots off. And this allows the plant to die, and it releases the man. And so this man turns out to be a wizard, more on the light side of wizardry compared to Sotha. And so this guy is Peleus, who has he reminds me of Phineas from Greek mythology, no, Roman mythology, I think. For some reason, I'm not really sure why. I think just the vibe he has reminds me of the way that Phineas was characterized in one of the Percy Jackson stories. I'm not really sure why. It just kind of hit me like that. And he helps Conan by summoning this weird flying beast to take Conan back to Tamar, where he basically his city's being fucked up by the people that are trying to take over it. And then he arrives. He kills Arpeo, who is the guy that's trying to take over. Thanks to the fact that he has some vague relation to the previous king. He saves the city, he gathers his army, and tries to return to this other place in order to kill Amarlus and Strabonus and Sotha. And 500 men survive of Conan's force, and Sotha tries to escape. But Conan manages to get a horse and manages to run him down. And then there's this eagle that kind of appears out of nowhere that helps Conan catch up by attacking Sotha, and then he manages to cut the head off of this guy. The eagle, who happens to be Peleus apparently, takes the head of Sotha with him, and Conan, I think, he buries the body because it's still alive, or he allows it to run away. I can't remember what happens, but he manages to defeat this guy. And at the end of the story, I was happy with it. But the beginning, the setup, it just feels too long for my tastes. The second half is much, much better. But I think it's because it's long in the sense that there's a lack of details because that's how Robert Jordan writes. But also the aspect that is being portrayed is a political aspect where details are necessary, right? And so it felt kind of boring initially, and then once we get into more kind of traditional Conan stuff, a wizard and fighting things, it feels real good. So I don't know, I have a weird relationship with the story, but it's definitely better than Cimmeria, and it's more interesting than Phoenix on the Sword. So it's definitely in that placement that I talked about earlier. So Tower of the Elephant, then Frost Giant's Daughter, then God in the Bowl, then Scarlet Citadel, then Phoenix and the Sword, and then Cimmeria at the end. So far, I've loved Conan. I actually wanted to get this video done as soon as possible so I can get back to reading it, because if I read ahead too much, I would have been kind of confused. Stuff would have started to jumble in my brain. So yeah, overall, really, really good stuff. I love the Conan stories so far. Let me know what you guys thought. Have you read these Conan stories? And if you have, what do you think about them? Thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.